Paradise Locker. Today we are down at Johnson County Community College Culinary Center, and we have some awesome people sitting at a table over here to my right that are going to be doing a bacon tasting panel. So we have 5 different bacons that we're going to be doing today. We'll do a brief intro, have everybody taste the bacon, and then we're going to go around the table and do some commenting on the individual bacon's flavors, textures, that kind of stuff. So we won't keep this anymore. I'm going to turn the camera over to the table and I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the tasting.
Well, I am Carolyn Long with KCTV5. I am a news anchor, so I'm not a chef by any nature, but I'm a self-proclaimed foodie, I suppose, and love to taste good food and curious to see what we have in store today.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Justice. I'm
a tour and consultant and bacon fanatic.
I'm Chef Benjamin Wood. I am the chef partner of Providence Pizza, and yeah, I'm excited. Bacon is great.
Yes. Hi, my name is Alec Swall. I'm the sous chef at Acre restaurant up in Parkville, and yeah, I guess cooking and baking a long time. And very excited to see what we got to taste today.
I am Nita McAfee, the executive director and founder of the Prospect KC and the spot and soon to be the Nook. And I couldn't be more happy about spending my birthday eating bacon.
Happy bacon birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
I'm Edward Adele. I'm a Culinary Community College.
I'm Andrew Longres. I'm the chef and owner of Acre Restaurant in Parkville. Very excited to be here. Learn kind of what's in our backyard and what we can use on our menu.
I'm Kelly Bianchi. I'm the chef and co-owner of Tria Bianchi, a new restaurant in North Kansas City. Very excited to be here. Love supporting Paradise Locker, and bacon is definitely one of our essential ingredients. So always good to explore more about it.
My name is Dave Eckert. I'm a recovering news anchor, food and beverage journalist, and fellow Liberty resident. We got 3 in a row right here, and have known Nick and the Phantasmas for a long time. Big fan of their stuff, big fan of their bacon, and really excited to taste through this.
I'm Jason Lafferty. I'm the hospitality programs here at Johnson County Community College. Excited to have all of y'all here, as well as Paradise, to try out some of this bacon because we'd like to hear a little bit more about it and be able to provide some education for our students because that's what we do and what we enjoy.
It's awesome. Well, thank you guys. Once again, welcome. So we'll jump right into it here. So in front of you, you have our Applewood smoked shoulder bacon. So first of all, the bacons that we're going to be tasting today are going to be from our local hogs that we produce. They're going to be naturally raised hogs, outdoors, no antibiotics. So this shoulder bacon is made from a Boston butt. We got the idea from some friends of ours down in southern Missouri that did a hillbilly bacon in their shop, and we like it a lot, especially as a BLT bacon. If you think about a pork steak, it's a really nice big slab. It's a little bit more tender. It doesn't crisp like belly bacon. Fries up a little bit more like Canadian bacon. So we, you got a really big slab, you fold it in half, and you've got a BLT right there. So invite you guys to try it out, and we'll start with the young lady down there on the end and work around the table, and I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on it.
Oh, it's delicious. I love the idea of tasting this with a BLT. Mm-hmm. I think this would be spectacular with some tomatoes alongside. This is great. This is great.
Dry tomato?
There we are.
Speaking of,
they were prepared.
Ask and ye shall receive.
It's nicely balanced. The balance in the salt. I think it says on here you guys have sugar cured. I like that the sugar's not overpowering. It's not up front, and it's got, you really taste the pork in it, which is nice and great texture.
Yeah, I appreciate the meat ratio to the fat ratio on it, with it being a little bit heartier of a bacon. Definitely see multiple uses for this product.
Yeah, I would say this has a really nice snap and texture in the mouthfeel. This is definitely going to look great up on BLTs of the nature. Yeah, you see a lot of nice application on it. Very nice meat as well.
I am a fan of sweet, but I do like this because it feels like it's very neutral. So if you wanted to go sweeter, if you wanted to do something a little bit more savory, the sugar cure is not so overpowering that you'll be doing that like salty sweet kind of thing. That's not what you want. So I really like the texture of it too.
Yeah, I think this compares really well to style bacon. So as you travel Europe, you might find something in Germany that's similar to this. I like it. Their bacon is slightly saltier, so I like the fact that that's kind of a little bit brought down, so it's more meaty, less salty. Yeah, so I think it's really good.
I like this one as well. I had a question. How is this packed? Is this whole? Is this sliced at a time? How is this?
So out of the retail store, we serve it sliced.
Okay.
We do 1 pound packages and we serve it sliced. For application in a restaurant, that's all open for discussion.
Okay, because I see this as, it's great sliced and roasted like this, but also if we braise this down and we started to glaze that, that would be really good. Break down the collagen. You would have a good balance. Have a good balance of sweet and salt with the smoke onto it. It'd be really nice as well too. Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with Chef Andrew from a chef's perspective. It would be wonderful to be able to have it whole, even cut it into lardons and crisp it up. It's got a really nice chew to it, great balance of flavor. It's really nice.
Somebody mentioned the European style. I think it was the chef down at the end here. And it kind of reminds me a little bit, if it were a bit smokier, almost like a Speck Alto Adige, which would be really fantastic to get something like that domestically. It's probably my favorite meat on the planet.
Application-wise, I mean, I agree with the other chefs. What they said, I think about one of my favorite BLTs in town. They do a pork belly, and they cut it thick, and then they finish it on the grill. This absolutely 100%. You could just take the application out, finish it, just hit a little bit on the grill, and make this a phenomenal BLT. A little basil aioli, a little fresh tomatoes, and like you said, this could make one of the better BLTs because it stands up. It's just not crunchy, fall apart bacon like I eat in Memphis in the South. This would have a lot more depth and it would be more refined. So a lot of the higher end restaurants, this could be something you could throw on your menu and use that application.
I should also mention it really is balanced. It's not. It doesn't have too much of anything. Not too much sweetness. Not too much crunch. Not too much fat.
And not too
really
much, and balance of the smoke as well.
Smoke as well.
And the salt.
Yeah, and the salt. So I think that's why it would be so excellent on a sandwich.
Yeah, that's one of our big things that we really try to with our cure. There's a lot of ham, a lot of bacon that they're on the salty end with, and so we worked for a long time getting the cure recipe down right with the right amount of sugars and the right amount of salts to add to it to get that nice balance. And so I think something that you guys might find interesting. All the bacons that we're starting out with today, or all the bacons that we're tasting today, are done with the exact same cure. And so you'll see some differences. And welcome. No, don't apologize at all. You'll see some subtle differences between obviously the flavors that we're adding to it, but then the different cuts of hog and how that takes that flavor and uses it in and of itself with the different fat contents and that kind of thing. So be an interesting thing to try. Laura, if you would, real quick, could you take a second and just introduce yourself for us?
Sure. Hi, I'm Laura Comer. I'm executive chef at Kauffman Stadium.
Welcome.
Okay.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
So what you have in front of you is an applewood shoulder bacon. It's cut, we cure and smoke and slice Boston butts. And we'd love for you to try a bite and see what you think. And then we cure and smoke and slice Boston butts. And we'd love for you to try a bite and see what you think. The next bacon that you have in front of you is our sugar cured smoked bacon. This is our standard belly bacon that we have. And so it's done from the pork belly. Once again, it's sugar cured and it's a hickory and applewood blend in the smokehouse. So feel free to try and again, start down at the end of the table and get your thoughts.
Yeah. Totally different than number one. I love the caramelized sugar, the crisp on it. Well, it's sweet. That's delicious. More of a classic bacon, the way I think of bacon. That's good.
A little more smoke on.
I think of bacon. That's good.
Exactly what Carolyn said, which is that sugar has caramelized and crystallized, and it's got that nice like crisp, almost like calcium chloride in an aged cheese. It's got that little salt crisp thing going on, but it's sugar.
Echoing the same thing, I really think the pizza on the inside, so it's a really nice mouthfeel on that one. So, and the thickness I think is really perfect on this one.
Yeah, there's a deep, rich flavor that you're getting out of this bacon. That's a lot more the traditional standard kind of that you're used to tasting when you get some nice breakfast bacon, I guess you could call it. So I appreciate this a lot.
Yeah, as far as this bacon goes, I would say this is probably the epitome of bacon. What do you think of with that sugar cured stuff, the crispiness, the snap texture? This is great in kind of all applications. I would say go to. Yeah.
I'm gonna echo what everyone else said and just say that the only thing is I like the fatty part of the bacon that gets crispy. So it's a little lean for me. I would want just a little bit more of that fatty piece that kind of caramelizes because it just tastes really good. I think it would be really good with the cured seasoning on there.
And then I'm going to echo that as well too. I love the flavor of this one as well too. It's not super smoky like a Benton's that might be a little over smoked personally for me. But this is, I think, very well balanced. The cut's really nice, so it's a little thicker, but it's not too thick that you're essentially, biting and sawing through it to try to get your teeth through it. But I think it's very well balanced, very good.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone said, it's a great classic breakfast bacon. Really well balanced in flavor. It's great.
I really liked it because I couldn't stop eating it. It's just really balanced. I think, Nick, that's probably the thing that I notice about all of your products. Just beautifully balanced. There's not too much of anything. Nothing juts out at you. It just all really melds together.
Thank you.
I think if I was smart, I'd go over there and get some of the cured eggs that Eddie prepared and kind of dip this in there and have some fun with it because it kind of does have that classic bacon feel. And I think about my daughter; she likes kind of soft bacon, and so I kind of go to what you say. It a little more fat would have for some people, but for me, this is perfect. I like good, crispy, balanced breakfast bacon, and I'm thinking now I need to get this in the fall to make sure our kids see this type of bacon because it's much better than what we're using now in our breakfast class. So we'll see what we can do.
It's got a very clean flavor.
It really does.
Really nice. Yeah. Do you all package this as lay flat bacon?
We do. Yeah, it's a shingled.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
For retail purposes, it's a shingled 1 pound package. Typically in the wholesale world, we do 5 pound packages, and it's just stacked, sliced and stacked.
Great.
Laura,
Can you adjust any of the thickness, or is it like?
Yeah. So we do. We do a lot of custom processing. That's how Paradise Liquor started back in 1946. And so with our farmers that we're processing their hogs for and doing their bacon, we offer a thin, a medium, and a thick. This is our medium slice.
Do you sell it as a whole pork belly to be sliced?
We do. We can sell whole slabs. We can sell fresh pork belly. I mean,
Great.
anything pork-wise.
Yeah.
And
you want pork?
You got it covered.
They got it.
Hey, Chef Ed.D, how did you cook it? Just simple oven.
Yeah, we cooked it on the oven and sheet pan, so not on a rack, so it sits in its own fat. So I think we found with the first one, right, it helps it, right? If I was to take a piece of ham and it's a little salty, if I get a European style, and you grill it off or you cook it like that, it kind of condenses and concentrates that salt. And so this one didn't do that. This one, again, too, it didn't. So it doesn't really start to get overly salty. So, I mean, this one's nice and meaty, too.
Now, for the home cook, it might be good to know about the 5 stages of fat, which is...
I was hoping you'd bring this up today.
So when you get your pork belly in, I'm sure everyone here knows, but this is for the home audience, that your fat is solid, and as it comes up in temperature, it'll go to a liquid stage. Then after the liquid stage, it goes to a gel stage. And after the gel stage, it goes to a crispy stage. And after the crispy stage, it goes to carbon. Once you get to any stage, it won't go back to the previous stage. Like once you get to a gel stage, you can't render any more fat off and make it liquid. And so that's like one of the reasons that doing it in an oven, or sometimes people do it in a cast iron with water in it. It keeps the temperature from going up so you can render more of the fat off. So if you understand that, you can determine how much fat you want left in your bacon by how much you render off by the temperature and how slowly you bring that temperature up or how quickly. That's all.
I was really hoping you'd get into that today. That's absolutely fascinating to me. Yes, yeah, and I think we're ready for the next one. So the next one will be coming out, you can see on your sheet, is our sugar-cured jowl bacon. This one is going to be a little bit more fattier, so you will enjoy this a little bit. Although I will say, with our Berkshire pork, our bacon is on average a lot fattier than your typical store-bought bacon, for sure. We definitely get some, we occasionally get some customer complaints because of that. And it's like, well, Berkshire hogs they're fatty, so. So
they're not America's other white meat.
Exactly.
You know, exactly. You bring that up. There's another story, if you don't mind me telling.
No.
So, previous to World War II, the hogs in this country, the fat was used not the meat. The animal wasn't used just for food service. The fats were used in industrial applications, cosmetics, munitions, and because of World War II and the rations that were with that. The people at home couldn't get pork, and those fats were now being used to feed, part of the war effort. And so petrochemical companies developed synthetic fats from basically from oils or petrochemicals to supplant, what was being missed from the hog those fats were being used in those applications. And after World War II, we were already, as a country, set up for those fats. And the hog market collapsed post-World War II because the fats were no longer worth money, only the meat was. And hog farmers, including my grandfather, lost their shirts, and a lot of people lost their farms. And what happened is the NPA, the National Pork Association, started actively breeding the fat out of the cow. You have the old heritage breeds of Berkshire and Tamworth, and there's a ton of them. When that culminated in the 90s with the pork, the other white meat ad campaign. On high-end restaurants, you didn't see pork on the menus because there was not enough fat in it to support it. It was basically cooked. It was like shoe leather, and charcuterie wasn't possible with it either because it didn't have enough fat to support charcuterie being cured. And around the turn of the century, this was only because this is also based here, northern Missouri and southern Iowa. You have farmers that were raising hogs for ribbons at county and state fairs and 4-H clubs. We would have lost all those genetic lineages if it weren't for that, because no one was doing them in production. You had the modern Hampshire crossbreed, which looks like a long white dachshund as opposed to like a pork, pot-bellied pig of years before. What happens around the turn of the century, chefs started as we get into the modern artisanal, no one was doing, 20 years ago, no one was doing in-house charcuterie or in-house pickling or in-house fermentation. It wasn't happening. And when you started getting into the artisanal movement where chefs wanted to do those things, they started looking for the animals that would support that. And quite frankly, if you talk to Patrick Martins, who used to be the president of Slow Foods USA and now the president of Heritage Foods, Paradise was the ground point where this happened. And because those animals were here. And this didn't happen in California or upstate New York or anywhere else. This is where it happened. And this is where, like I said, these lineages, these genetic lineages would have been lost if it weren't for these farmers breeding these animals for bragging rights. And I think that's kind of important in all that. And that's how we have bacon like this and the kind of products that they have. And it is completely different than, you brought up, the pork, the other white meat. It's not the same thing at all.
Nick, you saved pork.
Sorry about the long story.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
We're trying to do our part. I'll tell you, it's.
I saw you said to keep it under 30 seconds. So
Oh,
I'm blowing it twice.
You're fine. We're doing great.
That's the last thing I said.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people a lot of times I think Pork the Other White Meat was one of the worst marketing campaigns for pork in this country. I think it got to a point like it was to promote leaner animals that were more health conscious for people. So it was the other white meat. It was another chicken that you could have. It was low in fat, and you know, before we learned that a lot of fats are good for you and you need them in your diets, and it got people thinking that they needed to cook pork to white, and you know, and that just ruins pork. And so there's why I feel you see a lot less pork on menus now, because like Jonathan said, the quality just isn't there to serve in a restaurant. But people have been ruined on pork because grandma or mom or whatever just threw them in the oven or cooked them until they were dry, and the pork chop was just always dry.
Sawdust,
Yeah, but don't you think some of that is people just don't have education about how the way that we've raised pigs has changed, right? You're no longer just feeding them all the garbage from all over everywhere, and then they don't carry as much of the weird bacteria and foodborne illnesses that they did then. So that my mom cooked it forever because her mother cooked it forever, but their pork and this pork is like, it's not the same.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
At all.
I agree 100%. I tell people a lot of times, like, our pork is red meat pork.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few cuts up next to the shoulder that I'll throw on the grill and I'll throw up against a beef ribeye any day of the week, and be hard pressed to find somebody that can tell me that a steak is better than that pork chop when it's cooked correctly. You know, I think it was only somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 10 years ago, somewhere in that window, the USDA came out and said pork was fully cooked at 145 degrees.
Right.
And before that, it was at 155 or 165.
Right.
So yeah, I think we're slowly getting back to understanding that pork can still be red and be safe.
Well, your Berkshire chops that you sell, the porterhouse, porterhouse, and then you also have a ribeye, I believe. They are fantastic, and they are, as you say, as good if not better than a steak.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's really easy to, especially for an affordable thing to take home and cook and have a good hearty meat experience like a steak at a fraction of the cost.
They're so big and so generous that you probably can't finish it, but because you can keep them so moist, I'm a huge fan, as you probably know, of leftovers and sandwiches, and you can actually reheat them in the sous vide or even very slowly in the oven and still have a lot of moisture and still have all that flavor as you make that sandwich.
And that has to do a lot with the fat content as well.
Yep.
And having that extra fat content in there really helps constitute the flavor and keep it hydrated.
Answering to Shanita's comment about education is part of it, but the other part of it is that pork like this isn't available to the average person in this country. I mean, anyone here can drive up to Paradise Meats and get this, and I assume that you can get it in boxes ordering through Paradise Meat, but going into your local grocery store, wherever you live, it's just not available, whether you're educated in what's available or not, and that's part of what we're talking about, and it'll take a long time for, even if people decide that as a consumer this is what they want, to re-gear the industry is not going to happen overnight.
No.
Yeah, there's a drastic difference between the big box pork that you get across the nation versus the pork that we're eating right now versus the pork that you can get from Vindagna.
Well, also consider the price. You know, if you were to introduce this into the mainstream market, what would happen to the price of bacon, and how would that shock people?
Yeah. Well, and then too, it's like, depending on where people are in the city and in town, like, if you're where the Prospect is located, that's the 3rd district, right? So you're going to go to Wild Woodies and the Sunfresh on 27th and Prospect. Well, that's opportunity meat. So you're not going to be able to, and so people's brain are conditioned to be eating, previously frozen or stuff that only has like 1 or 2 days to cook it before it's not well. So I think we've got to, also look at like it doesn't really spread around. So what is available maybe over here is not necessarily available even in places just a few miles from here.
I mean, it's the same whether you're talking about inner city or rural areas. The food deserts are very vast in this country.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, all right, well let's keep this going. So the ones that you guys just tried, well, I think we still need to go through on the jowl bacon.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the ones
This
that you guys
bacon makes
had
me want a big bowl of navy beans
Yeah.
and some cornbread.
Yeah. So that's done, same thing, like I said earlier, it's a sugar cured, but it's done from the jowl. So it's off the cheek, not to be, Dave and I had this conversation a little bit earlier off camera, not to be confused with pork cheek meat. The jowl is a fatty piece that lays on over the jawbone. Does carry a high fat content. I feel like it's a little bit saltier, carries a little bit higher of a salt than content than our belly bacon does because of the extra fat content. But I really like it a lot for a ingredient added bacon for soups and stews, and I'll control my salt content with this bacon rather than adding salt to a dish. But I like it a lot. We have a couple that comes in, and he's kind of a medium bacon person, and his wife is a really crispy bacon person, and they love the jowl bacon because she can cook it crispy and not turn it into a piece of charcoal. So I'd love to hear your all's comments.
Very clearly a little fattier than the last one and not near as sweet. I can see a use for both, but it still has a nice crisp on it, but the crisp isn't as sugary as the last one tasted to me. A little more salt. I could definitely have this with like some beans or a soup of some sort, or, I mean, this is great. Totally different than the last.
You were talking about the smoked shoulder making a good BLT. This is what I want my BLT from. I want it like crispy and layered with, like, you know, so there's kind of little air pockets in between. And there's a French pastry called mifui, which means 1,000 leaves. And I like a BLT or a BL with avocado or with egg, with the yolk like melted over this. All of those, it gets better and better. But having the crispy egg in there, or crispy bacon in there and layered in thin, it adds that kind of crunch that's not a tough crunch, but it's like a little shattery of, that's what I want.
This one I first and foremost thought of as an ingredient. Like, I would definitely like to cook with this bacon. Really great flavor. Again, I like the extra fat and salt content in it. I also can continue to eat it just as a regular piece of bacon, so I think it's super versatile. And what was I gonna say about it? Just like, and the texture again on Wylie, like even when it's getting cold, it's still really delicious and holds a really great texture, because a lot of things when the fat gets cold, it starts to congeal and you lose kind of that good mouthfeel. This one's still delicious even kind of cold.
Yeah, this has a deeper, richer flavor from being where it is on the animal. So it tastes dramatically different than some of the other different slice cuts that we've had so far. So this kind of like blooms and blossoms the more that you eat it, and it's delicious.
Yeah, just like you said, I would say I really enjoyed the crispness on this. The chew on the fat was really great. Honestly, kept finding myself just eating more and more of this bacon. So yeah, it'd be really great to cook with as well. Great, many applications.
I already said, I just want some
beans. I like it.
I'm gonna put this in the bag.
I like this bacon. It's really nice. And as I go and I'm cooking it in the back and I come back out, you know, as a charcuterie plate, to have a charcuterie where it's not cooked at all, just a whole shaved real thin. So when you have different charcuteries and you have some of them are, you know, dried, cured, and so they need to have, or you need to have on there some fattiness. And so sometimes we put these type of meats on there that are just really more solid fat to give moisture when you eat these things together. And this would be great for that. I mean, like the cooked, I like the crispy. And the other thing that this has, and the other ones too, is you can taste the earth. You can taste the soul of the animal, that what it eats. You know, when you get the other pork, you know, that we get, it doesn't have that. And this, you can taste that it's on, you know, the gland that it's raised on. You can taste it inside the meat.
I really like this one as well too. I think definitely more of an ingredient bacon on that. I mean, I enjoy it just as well too. But and this compared to like guanciale, which is the same thing, but an Italian one with herbs and lots of rosemary and juniper. I personally don't like guanciale. That's just my opinion. I don't like the super herbaceousness of it. But this one's absolutely delicious. And we can use this in a lot of different things. It would be great with carbonara. It would be great in soups. Braising, all of those would be really good. Very versatile.
Yeah, it's very decadent. It's not something that you would be able to eat a lot of, but I definitely
speak for yourself, Kelly.
I appreciate the fattiness of it, but very, very decadent, and it's been my favorite so far.
Mine too. I love the fat content. Everything in moderation, including moderation.
it's funny, you can actually look, it's still translucent. How long has it been sitting here? Which is kind of crazy. And like I said, I grew up in the South, and we started everything with bacon and fat and ham, pretty much. And if I could go back to my grandmother and give her this as the base of some of the dishes that she made, the different beans and different stuff, it would taste it a lot better. That's she didn't do a good job, but this, as you said, Andrew, start with this and just kind of develop it. Oh my gosh, incredible food.
I love the carbonara.
That's a great idea.
I would do
We're
that.
coming for dinner.
I really like
This
it
would be
for
a
pasta,
fun
especially a creamy pasta.
I mean, we're putting on mozzarella tonight,
that-
so.
I was gonna say, it'd be on your menu, right?
That fat content.
Tonight we're
soft fat
changing,
content inside
something
something
similar, yeah.
It's really nice.
Smoked pepper.
I could eat this. My dad ate bacon every day, and he just like a bacon sandwich. It was literally just like toast, bacon, and hot sauce. Like no hot sauce
I'm like, I could do that too.
and
but-
butter. Like every
Does
day
everyone
butter.
know the proverb of the golden hammer, the Chinese proverb, the golden hammer, that goes that when you learn how to use a hammer, everything looks like a nail? That's bacon.
It's funny you said that. My grandfather, a piece of cornbread, half a raw white onion, buttermilk, and bacon every day until it killed him. But yeah, he lived pretty good.
Until it kills him.
So before we get there, the one that Chef's putting out in front of you right now is our smoked pepper bacon. So once again, sugar cured. It's a belly bacon, and we coat the bellies with a black pepper before we smoke them. And so I'll let you all try that. And while you guys are tasting, before we get started on comments, I will talk briefly to our farmers because honestly, 100% that is where the accolades should go to for this pork. We try to do our best not to screw up their hard work, and so we have a group of 8, 9, 10 farmers that are local to us, not more than roughly about a 300 mile circle radius. We try and keep travel for animals down to a 3 to 4 hour window, not more than that, to limit stress on animals. Stress when it comes to meat quality, for an animal to be stressed out prior to slaughter will have gigantic impacts on meat quality. And so we do what we can to do that. But to the effort or to the acknowledgement of our farmers, like I said, we've got 6 to 8 that are relatively local to us. We've got one up in Iowa, we got one in Nebraska, a few in Kansas, a few here in Missouri. All of them follow a similar program. They're all doing outdoor raise. They're all either out on pasture in deep bedded hoop pens with access to pasture, all Berkshire, all never any antibiotics ever. And so our farmers take a lot of pride in the meat quality. We've got one farmer out in Effingham, Kansas, the Neal family, whose boys are in 4-H and FFA, and they do show pigs. And so they've got show pigs on their farm, but they also have meat qualities. And they talk a lot about the differences in a show pig versus a slaughter pig, and how the genetics vary. And there's a completely separate genetic line for show pigs versus
Carolyn?
Shall we start?
Yeah, please.
I love that when it's called a pepper bacon, you can really taste a quality pepper. I love the coating of the pepper and the balance with the smoke. Completely different. I'm more of a sweet, more of the sugar-based bacon personally, but I could see where this would be good for certain reasons, and it's tasty, real tasty.
Yeah, it's a coarse round pepper that you bite into it, and it's got its own. And it is peppery, and it's pleasantly chewy. The pepper is, and I agree with what you're saying. If you're going to call it pepper bacon,
let's do it.
Do it. Make it be about pepper, and it definitely is.
I echo the same sentiment. Like when you name something an ingredient, you should be one of the main things you taste. It adds a nice texture to it and a nice crispiness to the extra, and it does honestly, it really pulls the sweetness away. So you're getting more of that spice, but I think that sugar cure on there balances a little bit so the pepper's not so spicy.
Yeah, this is great. I've used this product before as a foundation to country gravy for biscuits and gravy in the morning, and just didn't have to add anything else but this into the pan and chop it up a little bit nice to really build that foundation of that great country peppery gravy that you get for biscuits and gravy, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, like everyone's saying, the pepper really kind of stands out on there. Really great coating. Love how it feels in the mouth, taste, texture. It's a really nice product.
Yeah, on the coating, I like that it stays on. Like I've had pepper bacon before, and then the moment you start cooking it, all the pepper comes off, and this is still like nicely and intact on there.
Nicely peppered.
So it's gonna be pepper bacon.
Yeah.
So I'm a smoker, and I like to smoke meats, and I do a lot of compete, been in competition, and so a lot of times when we do things forward, with brisket, you would say you'll watch the TV shows and I'll say black pepper on brisket, but on bacon here it does the same thing. So when you got that pepper on there and you put it in the smoker, the pepper and the meat absorb the smoke flavor, so it really starts to bring out the smokiness a little bit stronger in this particular bacon than the other ones previously because that pepper is on there. And when it's cooking in the smoker, it really brings it out. So I think it's really nice. I like it because of that fact.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I like the fact that you do get kind of the marry of both of the smoke and the pepper, but you also get the fruitiness of the pepper as well. It's not super overbearing, whereas like a raw pepper, if you're not toasting it or just in raw form, you put something on top, it's a little bit spicier on this one, so this is a little bit more fruitier style onto it.
Yeah, that's great. I noted that the pepper has like almost a pleasant bitterness to it that kind of cuts the fat of the bacon, which I thought was really nice.
Definitely, again, another balanced product. I would actually love to put the pepper bacon and the sugar-cured jowl bacon together on a sandwich. And it's like the best of both worlds. You get the sweetness and the higher fat content with that pepper. I just think it would be genius.
Think about all the poor people that have to eat Arby's bacon with pepper on it.
You should
They have no idea that they do not have the meats. This is definitely the meats. I think about, I love like wedge salads, and I love, I've got a lot of friends who in their steakhouses, they'll do, little pork belly and they'll throw that on the side of their wedge or whatever. This would be great too because of the fat, because like I said, the fruitiness of the pepper, a little blue cheese, a little bit,
I wrote down an ingredient bacon as well because I think it's great on its own, but it's even better married with other
you
things.
chop that up, throw it in, little cherry tomatoes, little lettuce, little ranch.
Wedge salad.
Any way you do it, it would be wonderful to have, and again, expose a better pepper bacon than what you see at Applebee's.
Yeah, I really love using it as a wrapping bacon. So like as a bacon wrap fillet, or to do or even shrimp, different things like that.
You do that, I'll bring the carbonara and we'll call it a night.
Perfect, it's a date.
Before we get to the jalapeno, you mind talking a little bit about your processing?
Sure.
Yeah, because I think, sorry to tell another story, but some time ago, there were a bunch of scientists literally from around the world with, I can never remember, is it Sam Newman, the son that's taken over down there.
David.
Mm-hmm. So David Newman, who used to be, at University of Wyoming?
So he's been to a few. South Dakota, he was at University of Missouri for a little while.
So he's a doctorate in animal husbandry, and is now, since his father's passed it down, is taking over the family farm.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had scientists in from, I remember there was Scotland, I want to say the Netherlands. Do you remember the other countries they were from?
I don't remember some of the other countries. I know
so they were,
MU and K-State were involved with them a lot as well. On
so
the local
they
ends.
were testing feed programs using seaweed as a probiotic to replace any antibiotics in animal husbandry, and they knew that the probiotics worked, but they wanted to know what it did to the flavor. And so they had some chefs, and I was luckily it was very kind of them to invite me to taste through these. And after it was over, there were these scientists behind me, and they were talking about kill to chill. And I was just like, as I'm apt to do, I interjected myself into the conversation. I said, well, "What are you guys talking about?" And they said, "Well, no matter what your feed program is, you can have the best feed program in the world, and you can have the best genetics in the world, and destroy it all in processing." So this is what we do. Is that we go around the world, we go to China, we've been everywhere, and we look at processing. And this is a quote, a direct quote. "The best processing we've ever seen was the last 4 days up at Paradise Meats, anywhere that we've ever been." And so if you want to expound on what makes that processing, I know,
yeah,
I don't know if people know who Temple Grandin is, and
Right. So yeah, if you're all not familiar with Temple Grandin, she's one of the foremost people in the entire world on humane handling aspects. And as I said before, humane handling and keeping stress of animals plays a huge factor in meat quality. When you start talking about pork, the first 24 hours after slaughter is also a gigantic opportunity to once again screw up all the hard work that the farmers do. And so when I say we just try and not screw up what they do, I really mean that. But we've taken with a lot of feedback from farmers like the Newmans, from also farmers like Craig Good, who was heavily involved with K-State and working his Duroc bloodline to, I saw Duroc pigs that produce the fat content that Berkshires do, which is just, I've never seen before in my life. And I'll still tell anybody to this day that I've never met a man who cares more for animals as a farmer. For somebody who raises animals for slaughter, I've never met someone who cares more for animals than that guy. But within the first 24 hours of slaughter, the pH level of the meat content is huge for meat quality. And so before slaughter, the pH always starts at the same spot. After slaughter, after the animal's chilled down to below 40 degrees, the pH always ends up at the same spot. And it's how it gets from point A to point B is what determines meat quality. And so if an animal isn't chilled fast enough, what happens is you get a really rapid drop in pH. And when you get a rapid drop in pH, acidity builds up. And so when acidity builds up, muscle fibers pull apart and you get excess moisture loss, you get excess protein extraction, and what you end up with is what they call PSE, pork or pale, soft, and exudative. So if you've pulled up a pork chop and it's a really pale pink color and it just kind of flops and flimsy, there's a chance that it wasn't chilled properly. And then on the flip side of that, if an animal gets chilled too quickly, muscle fibers stay cooled too close together, and so you don't get the protein extraction that you need, and you don't get, you retain too much moisture. And what happens with too much moisture retention is once it goes to another medium, it goes to a plate, you get excess moisture loss. And so you end up with what they call a dark cutter. You get very, very dark meat, and that can be tough because there's not enough protein extracted. And so protein extraction, probably the easiest way to describe it is when you grind meat, you're extracting proteins, and that's breaking down the muscle tissue and extracting proteins out of there, and it makes ground meats more tender than a steak, right? And that's what happens there. So the same thing is happening during the chilling process of a carcass. And so we did quite a bit of work when we were setting up our plant, setting up the coolers that the animals go into afterwards. If you ever come up and take a tour of the plant, our age cooler where our carcasses sit and hang and age, and our drip cooler, which is the cooler that they go into right after slaughter, they both sit at the same temperature. When you walk into that drip cooler, it feels probably 10 degrees colder because of the air movement and the air circulation. We put directing plates up above to where when the fans blow out into the room, they're hitting a block and it's shooting that forced air cold straight down, and it helps circulate the air. And that really helps us get those carcasses down to below 40 degrees in under 18 hours, which is what we want to try and do without running them through a blast freezer and chilling them too quickly. So we get a good balance and a nice steady drop of pH, which is going to help that animal be as best as it can be.
By the way, if you don't know who Temple Grandin is, Charlize Theron played her in the movie.
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, that woman is absolutely incredible, and we'll probably forget more than most of us would ever find out.
She designs the systems on leading up to the, and I'm telling that for.
It's okay. We teach that in class too.
Yeah,
yeah, it's a very unique person in history that created it.
Not for plants just like us. You know, Temple Grandin systems for animal handling are used in slaughter plants across the country. Big plants, small plants, and even out on the farms. There's a lot of farms who've adopted her practices. So, all right, last one. So this is going to be our smoked jalapeno bacon. So we did, it's been a few years, it's been probably 4 or 5 years ago. We had a program that we did that we were doing a brat and a bacon of the month. And so every 30 days we would release a new flavor of bratwurst and we would release a new flavor of bacon. And so we ran through a bunch of different flavors of bacons and bratwurst when we were doing that. We don't do it anymore because it's an absolute nightmare for all of our production people who have to come up with the labels and get all the internal approvals for the labels and the ingredient statements and all that kind of stuff. It's an absolute nightmare to turn that over every 30 days.
Slow here.
But this bacon was born out of that program with some other ones. And so basically this is similar to the pepper bacon. This is a sugar-cured pork belly that is then coated in dehydrated jalapenos before it goes into the smokehouse. So one of my favorite pitches to customers who come in who've never tried it is always, do you like Bloody Marys?
Yeah.
Because if you like a bacon in your Bloody Mary, this is the bacon to go with.
A selling point for this bacon is the fact that it's not overly spiced. Like, I think people see jalapeno on package sometimes and can freak out. And I think that's a huge selling point for this, is that it's a great heat level for a product that has been infused or had the jalapeno around it and attached to it. It's not a fresh jalapeno taste that can come off a little more acidic and harsh. This is a great round jalapeno taste, and I think this is excellent.
Great. Yeah, Karen?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Just where the last one was very pepper forward, you think it says jalapeno on it, it's going to be very, powerful pepper forward, and it's not at all. Just a very light hint of it, and a little kind of meatier taste to me. Just a little more of a, I don't know. I taste like the heartiness of the meat in this one.
To kind of expound on what Chef Benjamin Wood was saying, that you're right, the fresh jalapeno would be acidic, but I do feel there's a little bit more acidity in this than in the other bacons that we've had. And that acidity is, even though there's not a lot of heat here, kind of pushes that heat element in it. And I like that. I find that pleasant. So,
I love jalapeno and I love heat. But that being said, I agree that this is a really nicely rounded one. And I think sometimes people go for the heat so hard that they want the spicy, not the flavor. I think this is one of the times when you're actually tasting the jalapeno. You taste the flavor instead of the heat. And it's just super nicely balanced. I think it's delicious, and I think it's really friendly to people who aren't spice friendly.
Yeah, I thought this was really nice, tasty. We just need a little bit of cream cheese, got a jalapeno pop right there.
Yeah, I too was concerned, like, oh, is this going to be spicy? But it's not, and I definitely see why you said it's great with the Bloody Mary, because it would be pretty awesome right
The jalapeno comes out later, it's like, not your first hint, but it also brings out the sweetness. So like some of the other pepper stuff brings out the saltiness, this jalapeno starts to bring out the sweetness in the bacon, so I kind of like that.
As I was saying earlier, like it doesn't have that initial pop onto it, but I actually really like the texture of this one. It's a little bit denser, a little bit richer flavor, but I think actually picks up some more smoke off that. Especially with the pepper and the jalapeno, which will be dried, and then it's going to rehydrate itself, and it will pull smoke into it as well too. It's not like a Chipotle where it's dried and then really smoked, but it's really that
friendly. The jalapeno is definitely more on the finish than it is on the first bite, but it's not overpowering. Right. It just leaves like kind of a nice, little bit spicy finish on the palate.
Yeah, I wrote that it was really the perfect combination of smoke, sugar, and jalapeno. Again, beautifully balanced. I'm not a spice fan, but this is not spicy, it's flavorful. And it's got a depth of flavor that I think is wonderful.
I think it's kind of wild that you got all these chefs here. We're all commenting about our spice levels, but it's true that we're all very similar. But no, this is perfect. I like the meatiness of the texture. I kind of enjoy that. It gets your upper lip a little bit later on, which is good. It's always kind of fun when there's something in addition to when you taste it at the first time. But it's good. I like how it crisp on the edges, really good. I kind of enjoyed that as well. But there's a lot of depth.
I was just thinking, I love to make potatoes au gratin. It would be wonderful to make some of this bacon and put them in with the potatoes, 100% the cheese.
But it doesn't taste really spicy, but I've noticed the corners of my glasses are foggy and just. And I'm not spice averse, but
Would agree. That's awesome. Certainly appreciate all of you guys' insight on all these. So hopefully you all have enjoyed it. It sounds like you have.
Yes.
I would like to wrap this discussion up as we've flown through these 5 bacons with a question. Just an open table discussion. Everybody feel free to go. We don't have to take turns. But I would like you all to kind of discuss a little bit how you feel bacon has impacted the home culinary world and, of course, the restaurant world over the last 20 to 30 years. You know, we really hit the bacon craze kind of started in, you know, just after 2000, 2010 somewhere. Like bacon really flew through the roof, and we've seen it on our end. I know you guys have probably seen it on all your ends, but I'd love to get your guys' opinions on where you feel bacon was 20 years ago, where you feel it is now, and what it's done to your businesses, to your homes, how you feed your families, and that kind of thing.
I mean, I grew up on a farm, so this is like the quintessential American breakfast, I feel like. So everybody, you know, there's bacon, there's eggs, it's the standard that we have. So I think this style of what we're doing, it's, you know, it's definitely done an impact. It used to go very lean. They wanted it very cut thin. There's been some craves that they want them super crispy. Then thick cut came and all those kind of things. But it's really, you know, we use a lot of bacon in the restaurant. We use a lot of pork products in the restaurant, and people enjoy them. And I don't think that you know, there's been a lot of marketing that's been with the bacon and kind of ridden that wave as well.
As a home cook, I don't have bacon. I mean, I've got bacon in my fridge right now that I just made yesterday. I wish I had this bacon in my fridge.
Yeah.
Because I just think it's so versatile, so many different flavors, so many different textures, so many different levels of spice, sugar, smoke, thickness, thinness. It's a great ingredient, and the way you guys do it is just top notch.
Yeah.
I think what's really cool about bacon is everybody from, you know, in economic standards, like there's the really affluent people to the people that don't have that. It's everybody enjoys it, and you can dress it up, you can dress it down very quickly. You can have it for lunch, you can have it for breakfast, you can have it for dinner.
Going to what Kelly was just saying, that I just developed an entire menu of just lunch and dinner, no breakfast. And I try not to make bacon my hammer. I'm very conscientious about trying to develop a menu that can appeal to a broad spectrum of people. And still, when it's done, you know, I've got bacon on at least 6 dishes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a fairly large menu, but
what's
it's
a ball peen hammer?
Yeah, right. It's more like a rubber mallet.
No, but I think as chefs, like that's what you like. As far as an ingredient goes, it's become such a, oh well, this, if we just put bacon in this, it takes the dish sometimes from here to there on it, and so sometimes we overthink it or try to say, you know, like, I'm not putting bacon on this on purpose to, like, as a test. I don't know, like always trying to push yourself or something like that in that game, but it's always been like you always revert back to, you know what, nope, this tastes better with the bacon in it than me trying to come up with a different fat or that kind of thing to it. And it's such a product that does have the versatility that can be used in all formats. And
Or you say something.
Oh yeah, well I just think going on what Chef Andrew said about just kind of it runs the gamut. Everybody has bacon in there. It can be luxurious. It can be your just everyday staple food. And I think, like, in the last 20 years, the difference has been that we've made it a gourmet food, like chocolate dipped bacon, or we have candy bars with it, or you just add it to anything, and it becomes like, oh, this is a fun, cool food. It becomes carny food, you know, fair food. So I think it's just become super versatile. It's something I've always kept, like, I keep the drippings and the fat, because, like, something just needs a little something else. You got your smoky, you got your salty, you got your, you know, all your savoriness and the fattiness, and it adds so much flavor, like a base for soups. I love it that way. I also think I think there's been, and I do bulk, so I do tons and tons and tons of people, so you get everybody with different diets. For some reason, bacon is the great equalizer. Everybody's scared of pork. Like, I have a bacon vinaigrette that's like one of my, like, house dressings, and no one's scared of that for some reason. So I'm like, they're scared of a pork chop and not bacon.
But it's like pure bacon grease. Like
Yeah.
that's fat.
Yeah.
Nobody's afraid of that one.
No, I think everybody's just like, oh, well, it's bacon.
Oh, well, we're good then.
And I feel like that brings people to more food. Like you throw, like it could be just, you know, this average item, and then you're like, but it's got bacon on it, so I'm going to get that.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's such an enhancer.
You're absolutely right. So many people are like, I don't like fat in my food. Oh, but I love bacon.
Yeah, I'll take the bacon vinaigrette. Yeah.
I was talking earlier about pre-World War II and post-World War II. And post-World War II, because of the Depression and then not being able to get products of the war, the saying "living high on the hog" came out. The phrase that was like, because suddenly people didn't have to eat the lower parts, the shanks, and so that's also why it came into that Hampshire crossbreed. But what's happened over time, and the belly used to be considered one of those lesser cuts, but it's not anymore. It's a premium cut, and it gets a premium price. And
It's like flank steak, right?
There's
It
so
used to
many
be
like
cheap, not anymore.
Yeah, there's it is what it is. But as you mentioned, as it's become a very, very popular cut, there has been a coordinating demand in quantity, which supply and demand. I mean, this demands a higher price now too.
Yep.
Well, I grew up in the fat-free era that we now know was totally misguided. So it's just so nice to hear that it clearly has now come full 180.
A bunch of us have worked with a bunch of different chefs, whether Las Vegas or Chicago or New Orleans or Charleston. I know a bunch of us have been all over, and it's interesting to see how it's changed over the last 20 or so years. Like you said, with the mentality of it. I remember going to a John Best restaurant and getting mangalista pork, and I had no idea what it was, and I didn't know there were all these different breeds, and the chefs were starting to bring them kind of more mainstream. But I think bacon predominantly helped that because it was something that was approachable and we knew, and then we would kind of expand on it. I never thought I would have pork neck in a dish, but again, we're in Louisiana. They're bringing back heritage. They're doing cultural food, and it's like it was one of the best dishes I've ever eaten from a pig that I'd never heard of. So it was really kind of neat to see that. But I think it's evolved so much in the last 20-25 years, and it's become a staple. And I'll tell you, people, if they could get this bacon versus the Sugardale bacon I just got at Cosentino's yesterday, it would just
change your life,
change their lives. For the good, I think we're okay eating bacon.
I love the fact that it's so versatile. I mean, we tasted 5 different bacons, very different styles, each of them, very different flavors, textures, fat levels, balance between smoke and pepper and spice and sugar. If you can't find a bacon that suits your palate on there, get out of town. There's something for everyone.
Also, your culinary needs.
Yes.
I mean,
exactly.
The different
that fits what you're going for as you're writing a menu or coming up with a dish. Absolutely. Or just me making a sandwich.
Yeah, that's one thing I enjoy about it so much is, like I said in the start, everything starts as the same base. It's all Berkshire pork belly. There's not a different breed or a different feed program or something like that, and it's all the same base cure. But because of the different parts of the animal, the different flavors that we're imparting into the belly with the pepper, with the jalapeno, there's so many different applications, and really, you all know, it's endless. I don't know that we'll ever get to a point where we're like, oh, all right, that's it. I've done everything I can with bacon. Moving on to the next thing. So, anybody else have any closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
Thank you.
Thank you
How about that?
Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. This has been a blast. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to everybody's opinions on this, and I sincerely appreciate you all coming. I've had a lot of fun. We'll keep you guys in the loop because I'd like to do some more of this stuff as we go.